Hey guys, welcome to episode 15 Between the Lanes. I'm Ralph.
And I'm Ron.
We got another action-packed episode for you here. Before we get started, if you haven't liked the page, like our YouTube page, like our Facebook page, and share some videos. Help us out. Help us spread the fun and the info around. And I guess this week we want to talk about some guide flags, possibly.
Sure.
Maybe some 1/32nd scale racing and a couple other things, whatever pops up.
Yep.
To get started, let's hear some race reports.
Okay. Well, hard bodies. We'll start with hard bodies. It was a JPM Challenge race at Thaser Raceway in South Bend, Indiana last weekend. Had a pretty decent turnout, 30-some cars, I believe is what I read. Super Stock was won by Rick Stagen. Zach Woods second. Austin Milcherska was third. And then in Pony Stock, Austin was the winner with Jimmy in second and Rick Stagen third. At least I believe it's Rick Stagen because it just said Rick. And there was another Rick, but I never seen anything listed. So we're going to go with Rick Stagen. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. It would be the other Rick. But his last name wasn't mentioned.
Okay.
So I can only go with what I see. B&E Crosstown Challenge was at Chicagoland. And they ran Super Stock on the Fiedler Flat Track. John Schroeder won, Jim Kreider second, Neil Eisler third. Pony Stock was on the King Track with Jim Kreider winning, John Schroeder second, and Neil Eisler third. So kind of the same three guys on both podiums. So.
Right. Okay.
And then the ORS, the Ohio Retro Series, was at HMS in Bellevue, Ohio. Anglewinder was won by Cap Henry with Greg Fox second and Jason Butters Ingalls third. Can-Am was won by Cap with Raisin second, Greg Fox third. And then Cap won the F1 race as well with Bud Bartos second and Greg Fox third. So Cap pulled off a sweep.
Cool.
And Mid-South Slot Racing Association was at Hobby Max in Durham, North Carolina. They have a lot of races there. Seems like we have a report from every week. Nothing wrong with that, just saying.
Yeah.
Dirt Late Model was won by Walker with Teddy Hoots third or second. I don't know who was third, but Walker McNulty was the winner. And then Scale 4.5-inch NASCAR was Walker with Trey Buck Foster second and Timmy Bottoms third. The 4-inch stock car, Walker won that. And then Guy Spalding was second and Trey was third. And then GTP, Guy kind of broke the Walker streak. Guy won GTP with Timmy second and Teddy Hoots in third. So good job to Walker winning 3 out of 4. That's pretty good. SCRRA raced at Buena Park. I don't know which track they raced on, folks. I just know that Can-Am was won by Brian Warmack, Mill Conroy second, and Dale Yamashita was third. And in F1, Dale Yamashita won with Mill second again and Warmack third. So that was kind of just a swap up of the podiums.
Right. I just reversed them there.
Yeah, with Mill in the middle. So. And then there was, we talked about last week, just in the race announcement, about the $1 million drag race that was Oklahoma. Ross Raglan was the big winner, or the overall winner. I don't know exactly how that all went down as far as was one big class or there was classes, but he was the big winner. J.P. Schuster was the runner-up. I believe he's from the Canton, Ohio area. And they paid out over $13,000 in cash at that race. So,
wow, that's awesome.
That's a lot of money. Oh, before I go there. And then there was the 8th annual Fall Brawl.
Yeah, number 8, yeah.
Number 8, okay. GTC, which is the Coops. Jerry Herbert Jr. was the winner with Danny Zonas second and Keith Libby was third. In the GTC Pro Class, Willie Custer was your winner, followed by Jerry Herbert Jr. and Howie. Stock car was won by Dominic Luongo, which I don't have a second or third, and I just seen that Dominic had won that. Retro Pro was won by Duran Trujillo. Jason Holmes second, and Wes P. Kunis was third. Can-Am Plus was won by Will Brinkley. I don't know who was second or third. F1 was won by Willie Custer. And then Willie Custer was your Can-Am winner with Duran second and Will Brinkley in third. And cool. I know they had 54 Can-Ams. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was a pretty good-sized race. I mean, as far as from pictures I've seen posted and stuff. And
right.
I don't think the full race report's been out yet, but that's why we're missing a few names. But just picking up pieces here and there. So, and then 132nd Plastic Cars, there was a 24-hour race at Area 51 Raceway in Storrs, Connecticut. And the track appears to be I'm going to say a 6-lane, professionally built, routed, braided wood track.
Uh-huh.
Can't give any lap length or anything like that. Excuse me. But they had 4 teams for the 24-hour race. And I did see some video, and they actually race in the dark with like the lights off in the building, and
oh yeah,
the cars have the lights and everything. It's pretty cool.
That sounds fun.
And the teams were anywhere from 5 to 6 men on a team. So the first place, the winning team was Shoreline Model Raceway with 9,178 laps, which that's a lot of laps.
Yeah.
Second place was Cloverleaf with 8,810 laps. They were 368 behind. Third was Team Can-Am with 8,782. And then the fourth place team was Equip Quebec with 8,679 teams. So, I mean, it was kind of a fairly close race. I mean, after 24 hours to be within 1,500. And I know there was mention one of the teams had some pretty big problems early in the race with their chassis or something. But
right.
So we'll switch to some flexi car racing. And the OCC, Ohio Challenge Cup Series, was at Fast Tracks in Fremont, Ohio.
Uh-huh.
GT1B was won by Alex Stoudinger. This was like his second win in a row because he won last month. Dan Halfhill was second, and Danny Shirey was third. GT1A, Rob Voska was the winner, followed by Eric Shirey and Jim Pace Jr. Group 10 had Elmo winning with Eric Shirey second and Keith Nelson in third.
Okay.
GTP, Elmo pulled it off again and got another win with Ron Vincic second and Alex Stoudinger third in that one.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
it was, and they had a good turnout. I mean, they had 20-plus cars in each.
Yes, a nice turnout.
It was a good turnout.
Very good.
So, and then I was at the Yuska Nats this past weekend up at Mid-America in Naperville. And we started off with 4.5-inch stock cars, and I was the winner with Terry Watson second and Bill Sebnick in third. Then we ran 4-inch NASCAR on the oval as well. I won that. Terry was second, and Toby Kincaid was third. And then we went retro racing on the King track with Can-Am cars, and Terry Watson was your winner. I was second, and Ricky D was third. And then we went over to the LTD, which was Dave Feeler's old LTD when he had his raceway. And Alex Junkos was your winner, followed by Jeff Strauss and myself. And then we went back to the King, and we ran GTP, and I won with Terry second and Alex Junkos in third. So that was the Yuska Nats.
And they just recently announced that they're going to change some classes next year, right?
Yeah, they are. Let's see. How can easy way to say this? They're keeping the 4.5-inch class, which is a pretty cool and good class. GT1 and 4-inch is being combined into a production class. So, like the 4-inch class that we raced this weekend, you had to run Falcon 7 motors, and with those no longer being available, it was combined the class. So they're going with Hawk 7 motors, which is what we run in GT1. And they're going to run this production class with Hawk 7 motors and 11-tooth 64-pitch pinions, and either DTM or supercar type bodies would be the best way to describe.
Okay.
So they're still working on the body list, but they've already got, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 bodies
And they're not running GTP anymore.
Okay, yeah, they're going to continue running Can-Am, and then they've dropped GTP, and they're going to run JK Indy cars. And I think you can run either the wide or the narrow JK Indy car in the class.
Gotcha.
So, okay. And then their schedule's kind of a little bit different because they're going to a couple of raceways they've never went to before, or they haven't went to recently, and kind of spreading out a little bit. And then their Nats will be next November at Thaser Raceway in South Bend, Indiana.
Right. Okay.
So before we go into race announcements, before we do this, I'm going to ask you, have you ever raced the plastic 132nd cars before?
Not seriously. I mean, I've played around with them, but never on a serious level. Because
you still have the raceway in the mall down around you, don't you? That races 32nd scale cars.
Yeah. Correct. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty well known because it's a very, very large track.
Right, and they've been in business probably 4 or 5 years.
More longer than that.
Yeah, because I know James Merriman and Chris Barnes have raced there. But you've never went over there and raced. Have you ever went over and ran or anything?
Yeah, just played around just to check it out, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I've only raced plastic 132nd cars. I must say seriously maybe one time, but so.
But there's a lot of people that race them, and it's pretty popular.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is different beast racing those. I mean, you know, it all comes down to setup and everything else, tires, everything we talk about. So, and then is this where we do our new segment?
Yeah.
The new 20-minute segment.
Yeah. We can do that now if you want. So exactly how many times did you fall off at the USCA race in each class?
4.5 inch a few. 4.5 inch a few. Can-Am, maybe twice. On the LTD, too many times to count. And then GTP just once.
Okay. Well.
Was that 20 minutes?
That was a pretty quick segment, unfortunately. Yeah. You need to fall off more so we can drag that out longer.
We'll have to stretch that out next time.
Yeah. So,
thanks to Mike for suggesting that new segment. So, anything else? Before we go to race announcements.
Well, I'll wait till race announcements were done if we want to go ahead and get those out of the way.
Okay. So this weekend, November 18th and 19th, Northeast USRA wing car racing at Port Jeff Raceway. We have the BRS Retro at Fast Tracks in Fremont, Ohio. Penn Ohio Retro is in Washington, Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
The Central Illinois Slot Series is at Elkhart Village, Illinois. The Rebel Series is at Concord. AWRA is at Thunder Road in Virginia. And they're also at Kingston's in Alabama. And I actually went and looked that up. That's like a tiny little 4-lane track. So
right. Yeah, I saw that.
Kind of cool. New England Retro.
It's like small.
Yeah, real small. New England Retro Racing's at Agawam. And you've got the part 2 of the Turkey Nats at Tri-State Raceway in Middletown, Ohio. This weekend's the class racing. And they had bracket index last weekend, and I actually texted them for a report, see how many entries they had and who actually won what, and didn't get an answer. So I have nothing on that. And then the Penn Jersey Series is at Trains and Lanes this Sunday, the 19th.
Right.
So that's all the races I've there's more races than that, but that's kind of what I've seen. And then, another interesting note, if I can find it, but I don't know if I can find it because it's probably buried here. It was because I think they said they had 264 cars at the $1 million drag race.
264 cars or entries?
Cars is what I was told.
Okay.
And then Again, we could be wrong because
I think that probably means that probably includes.
Yeah, maybe that was just for the $1 million race. Maybe there was different racing going on in different numbers.
Right. I think that includes the however many times somebody entered.
Yes.
If you double entered or something, you know what I mean? I think that's included in there.
And then down at Innovative Slot, they had a bracket race and they had a Midwest Drag Racing League race, which was all classes. They had 206 cars between those two races.
Uh-huh.
And Dallas Slot Cars, they had 180 cars for Saturday drag racing. So I mean that's like 600 some cars. And then again at the Turkey Natzes with Tri-State, I have no idea, but I mean 2 years ago I think they had 1,100 for the bracket race.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's real crazy because I think they said it took like 19 hours to run the first round or something.
Right.
So I don't know what happened last weekend there. So
right.
But moving right along.
Yeah, you mentioned the Rebel race.
Okay. It's going on this weekend at Concord.
Yeah, Concord. Yeah, I was thinking about going to that, but you can't find any information about that online. I don't know why it's so hard. If you guys are listening, you should make that the rules and the schedule a little more accessible. Maybe I don't know.
So you're having trouble finding rules?
Yeah, I mean, it took me forever to find the rules, and then it was not all the rules, but most of the rules. But then I never could find a schedule anywhere. And then I saw a post. It was oh, it's this weekend. I was oh, okay, well, scratch that then.
Too late to go?
Yeah, because they'd have to order stuff,
Sure.
I don't run a lot of the stuff they run. They're special bodies and stuff, so.
Right. And then the November 25th, you got the Turkey Classic Drag Race at Hot Slots in Lewisburg, Tennessee, the Texas Two-Step Retro Race at Dallas Slot Cars, AWRA is at VT Raceway in California, and then you have Israel Euro Racing at Speed Zone, New Jersey. And that's
okay.
Next week we'll do the 25th weekend, and we'll do what's coming up December 2nd weekend.
Right.
So,
okay.
So everybody knows what's going on in the next 2 weeks and kind of what we'll be talking about, unless something else popped up. We didn't know anything about the 24-hour 30-second scale race, but I had a note. I had a tag and a post that I should talk about on the show. So,
okay.
There you go.
So right now on Slotblog, there's a lot of talk going on about Retro Hawk and Hawk 7 motors and stuff like that. So one of the things that people keep bringing up is what they call two-step motors, where it kind of runs and then it just kind of holds its RPM, I guess, and then once you get to a certain level of power applied to it, it's it just kicks in a second notch,
Yep.
So personally, I've never really had that issue that I can remember. I mean, maybe a long time ago or something, but do you have experience with that, or what do you think? Because there's all kinds of theories, flying around everywhere, what everyone thinks is.
Well,
so, I mean, is that something that you've seen, or?
Yeah, and we kind of talked about it pre-show a little bit, and you heard the motor 2 shift that I had here, and that was actually a Hawk 7 motor because I thought it was a Retro Hawk, but it was a Hawk 7 motor, and and you were listening to it on the speakerphone, and you could hear it.
Right.
So after we got off the phone, and it's been a few hours ago. Yes, I know what the problem is. The problem is internal. The problem can be fixed. I don't know if it'll be fixed, but it can be fixed. It's a combination of a few things. It's not just one thing you can put. It's this is the problem. It's a combination of about 4 different things. And if the manufacturer would like to know more, he knows how to contact me.
Okay.
Because it's nothing that anybody can fix outside the motor. You have to go in the motor to fix the problem.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. So if somebody had one, is there something they can do? I mean, because some people say that they were saying that if they broke them in longer, it went away, or if they super glued the tab on the lead wire or something,
right,
it went away.
And see, in all fairness, maybe there is something there with some loose lugs coming out of the motor you saw your lead wires to. I have a brand new motor that the lugs are tight. You can't move them. So, but it still has the 2-shift problem. I mean, the motor's never been in a car. The brushes are fully seated, blah, blah, blah. There's a combination of 4 things in there. So,
yeah, because I've never even had the lead wire tabs. I've never had them come loose unless they're loose and I just don't know it.
And I've never had them come loose on any of those FK motors, whether it be a Retro Hawk, Hawk 7, Falcon 7, Demon, whatever. I've never had that problem.
I mean, I think most people – I don't think people are mad because I think most people are just under the same consensus. I mean, it's a $12 Chinese part,
Well, it is what it is, and I don't care through the history of slot racing. If you want to talk Death Star motors or Super 16D motor, any Asian motor, there's always some problem with it. Okay,
right.
And that's why for years we take those motors apart and fully blueprint them and make the motors much better, not only in performance but in longevity as well. So, but they're just not. I don't know how to say this, but there's things done in production that could be changed. I don't know if they want to change them, but there are changes that could be made and would fix some of those problems once you identify the problems. I
mean, and I'm talking even like Chinese decans and
yeah, exactly.
Everything. It's like it's always the same problem anytime you run anything with a Chinese arm, basically.
Well, and to take that one step further, I mean, last week ProSlot announced that they were taking their Group 12 motor, their production Group 12 motor with the Asian arm, Chinese arm in it, and now they are taking those motors apart and they're epoxying those armatures and rebalancing them and cutting the comms, and that's going to make that a better running motor. But that's stuff that you can't do in China,
right?
So, same deal with the Retro Hawk. The Retro Hawk and the Hawk 7 shifting problem has nothing to do with the winds per se, okay? That's a totally separate issue of when those fling a wire now and then. That's a totally separate issue. But the shifting problem is a problem of its own that like I said, it's one of 4 things, combination of all 4 things actually. But whether or not they'll ever be addressed or identified, who knows? But I have identified them. So,
okay. So, I've noticed too that when I broke in a couple in Simple Green, it breaks them in real fast. Obviously, I think everybody knows that. But my power supply reads RPMs, volts, and amps. But every time I break them in Simple Green, they no longer will ever read RPMs again.
I got no answer for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just find that odd. Like, to me, that tells me, I mean, it's doing something, right? Like, obviously, it's changing something inside the motor other than the brush.
Well, other than maybe if you've got something in your comm slots. I don't know if you're going in and trying to clean the comm slots out after you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I try to do that, yeah. Okay. But it's like it just never –
but if you don't get it all out, right, if you don't get it all out there might be enough in there to for some reason your power supply is not reading the RPMs anymore.
But if I break it in just water, there's no issue. It's like it's when I use the Simple Green.
Right. But from what I'm reading, the Simple Green has a better chance, we'll put it, to clog up the slots in the comm versus water.
Okay. And why is that?
It had to be something to do with in the chemical formation of the Simple Green. Because to clog up the slots, you're getting gum. It's like a gum that goes into the slots. So there's some chemical that at a certain temperature or something becomes more like it almost like turns to jelly or putty, and it goes down in the slots.
Kind of going down in there.
Where water in the motor brushes, you're making more of a slurry.
Right.
So it may not go down in the slots and clog up.
Right.
I mean, you can clog up your slots breaking your brushes in water. That's why I don't recommend doing it, especially in a sealed motor, because if you clog it up and you can't get in there to get it out, then you've ruined the motor basically.
Yeah, I stopped doing the simple green thing. I stopped that.
So I mean, I've never done a simple green motor. I've always, those motors I always break in water. I get a clear solo cup filled up with water, put the motor in, turn the motor on about 5 volts and run it. Usually it takes a minute or two, but as soon as I see the water start to turn from clear to a light gray or silver, then I stop, blow the motor out, and I put on the power supply for 2 or 3 hours and let it run. And again, like I've said on the show before, the brushes are fully seated in at that point. So
yeah.
But the simple green thing, it's just a quicker way to, I mean, there's probably other things you can dip your motor in and cut the brushes quicker than just water. But
right. There's
a
lot of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, years ago, Bolink Champion used to make the Electro Whirl, which was trichloroethylene, which we use in motor spray. You put your motor in there and run it, and that'd break the brushes in as well as clean the motor, supposedly. I mean, it was made to clean your motor, but it would help make help break the motor brushes in. So,
right.
And then years ago, the trick in RC racing, I mean, we're going back 30 years ago, was to dip your motor in rubbing alcohol and turn it on. And
well, I know people that do that now still. Yeah.
So it's just like but it works. It cuts it, but it's just an old trick. So said some people swear by that.
Yep.
I mean, those brushes and those motors are so hard, and they don't turn hardly any RPMs when you're running them to break them in. You have to assist that by doing it with liquid.
Okay, so
liquid break.
Do you recommend like a certain voltage to not go over when you're just spinning the motor up on a power supply when it's not under a load?
It would depend on the type of motor and the class of motor.
Okay, well, I mean, just like a retro.
Okay, like a retro Hawk, you can take them up to 12 volts. I mean, I've taken so many up and revved them up, and
but are you holding them there, or are you just coming right back down?
Rev them up. I've held them there.
Okay.
And I've never had one fling a wire that way, but I don't. Okay, I don't hold them there all the time. But for this thing I did earlier today, I was holding it up there, and I thought, well, if it throws a wire because it's going 10,000 RPMs, we have a problem.
Well, it's going more than that, but yeah.
Right. But at the same time, it wasn't causing any other problem because I was running at 12 volts. Now, I don't recommend that you hold a motor at 12 volts per se. My deal was totally R&D, okay? If I use that motor to race this weekend or next weekend, I wouldn't have probably went up there and held it at 12 volts. I might have revved it up a couple times, but no. So, I mean, basically your motor – and again, this is not scientific, but if a motor's turning 30,000 RPM at 12 volts.
Well, that's probably what they're turning, like 6 volts. But
okay, I'm just throwing numbers out here.
Yeah, right. So I mean, I'd say like, I don't know, like 60 or.
It's turning 60,000 at 12 volts.
I'd have to go look. Yeah.
Okay, if it's turning, if it's just freewheeling the motor on the power supply at 12 volts, you're going 60,000 RPM. Put the motor in a car and run on the tracks. I don't care if you run at 12 or 14 volts. It's not seeing the number of RPMs under load on the track in the car as it does free rubbing.
Right.
Okay. Yes. So, but there's a lot of times when you run a motor in, say 3, 4, 5 volts, whatever, and then at the end of it, you rev it up like ring, ring. Sometimes it'll blow stuff out of the comm slots. It'll blow some brush dust out or whatever. So, or it might knock an edge off the brush. I mean, you can hear the motor like, oh, the motor just picked up a little bit.
Right.
So, but if you don't rev the motor up, if you just take it off at 5 volts after you run an hour, put it in your car, and you go out on the track and it's a slug, well, if you'd have revved it up, you'd have known if it revved up or not. So, not always rev a motor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. See, like a lot of times I'll stick mine at like 8 volts, and I'll just hook the motor up, and I'll just go on, off, and you can just hear the pitch from motor to motor to tell what's going to rev up and what's not. But even though you still got to run them on the track. But
correct. Because that was another.
What was that discussion? What's going to rev?
Yeah, there was a discussion about that last week about motors on a power supply and revenue. I don't remember where it was now because I thought we talked about that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we've talked about it before, but it keeps getting brought back up. So
right,
always over and over.
So basically, the two-step problem, you got to deal with it. It's there. You can't fix it. No way you can do it is get inside the motor to fix it. And it's just it's a production thing.
It seems to be more on the Hawk 7 than the Retro Hawk. So, and I don't know if those are
well, and I can see that because the Hawk
or not, but
well, I can see that with the Hawk 7 because the Hawk 7 is a higher RPM motor.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
but other than that, I don't know if everything's the same, right? You know what I mean? So I don't know if
everything in the motor is identical. Right, everything's identical in the motor except for the number of turns.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe wire gauge, but I think Retro Hawk is 60 turns of 30, and or so Hawk 7 is 60 turns of 30, and Retro Hawk is 5 turns more, 65 turns of 30. So
supposed to be anyway.
Well, yeah, but anyway, that's another story.
Yeah. So
but, it's like I never seen a two-step problem with any other FK motor other than the Retro Hawk and the Hawk 7. I mean, I've never seen a Falcon 7 or TSR or Demon or any of those other motors do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that, it has nothing to do with It has nothing to do with brush hardness either.
Right. Maybe one day they'll flip the brushes around the right way too. That would be nice.
Well, I
think the motors would last so much longer.
Well, the brushes will seat in quicker. Okay.
Right.
Because the way the brushes are now, the wrong way, the brush still eventually seats in to the diameter of the commutator.
But to get it fully seated, you got to wear through like 3/4 of the brush at least. I know.
Right, because you're
running. If you are the right way, you could seat it so much quicker, and then I think it lasts longer.
That's what I'm saying.
They'd probably run better for the majority of the racers, right?
Right. Well,
or maybe they'd be not run better, but they get to their maximum potential for a higher percentage of people.
Well, right? And yeah, see, and we talked about that this weekend at dinner after the races. Okay, like why is the motor brush turned sideways in those motors? Okay, so a little more history. Mabuchi, they made the 36D, the 26D, and then the 16D, and then they made what is called the 13D motor, which is an FK size motor. So that was in the late like 69 or something. They came out with that motor, if I remember right. But anyway, that was a FK motor. Basically, the ProSlot FK motor today is the same as the Mabuchi FK motor or the 13D was back in 69. External, in-bell, plastic in-bell, external brushes, blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, by 1969-70, slot cars was nowhere. Mabuchi's main motor business for a long time was slot car racing. So slot car racing's crashed. We're not selling as many motors. They went off and got into different types of motors. Okay, fine. I don't know when Mabuchi went to the FK style motor we have now with the internal brush in-bell, metal in-bell, crimped on the can, brushes inside. I don't know when that happened. I don't know if that happened in 71, 75, 78, 82. I have no idea when that happened. And I've tried researching it and can't find anything on it. So the thing is, and I don't know.
Maybe somebody like Felipe might know.
Well, maybe. I don't know if that motor was designed, like Mabuchi engineers actually said we want to turn the brush sideways. Or was that an actual mistake? They had tooling made. They made the brushes, brush tooling. They made the arm tooling, put it together. Oops, this is wrong. What do we do? Do we now go fix the arm problem, or do we fix the brush problem? No, let's just try it. It worked for that application. It's been that way ever since.
Yeah, but it's not like they don't run, right?
Right. And it's seen everybody that's copied Mabuchi because Mabuchi was the first one to have it. But now you've got all these companies in China that make the same identical looking kind of thing, but it's not a Mabuchi motor. It's not Mabuchi parts. It's back-poured, ripped off, copied parts in China. They went with the same brush system.
Right.
The wrong way.
So what you're saying is everybody's just copied.
Well, everybody after Mabuchi. And like I said, it goes back to, was it a mistake that the brush is one way versus the COM? Or did they actually engineer it to be that way?
Right.
And because you got to remember, all their previous slot car motors had the brushes radiused the same direction as the commutator.
Right.
So it's like it had to be a mistake.
Right. And see, this is why everyone's doing simple green, right?
Right.
And you know the manufacturer, everybody's like, oh no, don't do it, you know. But everybody's doing it to seat the brushes fast because you have to go so far in to the brush. I mean, that's why everyone's doing it. You know what I mean? Right. So, yeah, I don't know what it would take to get the brushes the right way, but it seems like it would only be a benefit for everybody, except for maybe it's just cost too much money to fix the tooling or something, you know. But it seems like it would be a benefit for everybody.
Well, not saying this is the end goal, but if the brushes are seated or positioned the right way and the motors last longer, that's less motor cells over a given period of time. So,
right.
I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying
that's true. I mean, it is true. I mean, it's just like anything, right? I mean, you sell Wonder Rubber tires, you know, you're obviously not going to sell as many tires, right? You know what I mean? It's
right.
The same thing. But, yeah.
Right. I mean, I know guys that glue their tracks certain ways, so everyone has to run soft tires, so they buy more.
Just to be clear, we're not suggesting that anybody sells inferior products on purpose.
No.
I don't want to have any emails about that. All right.
Right. But at the same time, if let's just say if anybody that's importing FK motors wants that problem corrected, it's going to cost you a minimum $5,000 to correct the problem, because you either got to fix the brush tooling and you got to fix the arm problem. But then the problem is you got to buy 100 or 200,000 of these brushes for us to run them when we switched the brush, or you got to maybe do the same thing with the arms. So does anybody want to make that investment to fix that problem? Because the motor companies over there do not want to do that. It's apparent.
Right.
They've been told.
Done by now.
Yeah, they've been told, they've been showed they haven't want to. And you know what? They can have millions of these parts already sitting there, and we're not changing anything until we get rid of this stuff.
They can have 10 years of what we call 10 years worth of our slot car motors, you know, who knows?
Right. And they can use all that stuff up in all the other motors that are the same way, but for some reason, somebody somewhere somehow doesn't want to straighten this problem out.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to it is what it is. They're $12 motors. They're going to have some problems. Can't make them perfect for $12.
Right.
You know, I don't even know if you can make them perfect for $20. But
well, I mentioned the Chinese decans. I mean, I forget how much they were, but I mean they were somewhere around $20 or something. It seemed like.
No, the Chinese decans were anywhere from 12 to 14. You know, if you're talking like a Death Star motor.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it was the same thing. I mean, you just had junk hardware and junk arms and junk.
But anyway, you still look at it, okay? Because, you know, I worked at a company that we made motors in America. I don't care if you buy a 16D motor or a Super 16D motor. Take the armature out of the equation. You're getting a hell of a lot of setup and quality there for your money. For it's at $12 or $14 bucks. I mean, a complete motor at $12 or $14, you're getting a hell of a lot for your money compared to what it would cost you to make it here in America.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, I'll look at those motors and say, how can these people even make these motors at the low price that they sell them to the importers for, but yet the factory's still making money? How can, I mean, it's like.
That's kind of one thing. That's one thing too about, you mentioned ProSlot. Like, I mean, I know they manufacture a lot of stuff, right? But they take they're taking their time and they're they're like reworking the Chinese products in house to make them better. I mean, because they know that they're
Right.
not spectacular, right? So I mean, they're taking the time to do that, which is never really been done before, which is
No.
pretty cool to see them taking the time to do it right. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Well, they kind of do that already with the north-south motor, sort of the north versus south 16D motors, where they put the tags in them,
Right.
box the arms, rebalance them, put them back in the setup. Now, again, they don't have, gold dust brushes in them or anything. They got the stock brushes in them, but still, for another $3 or $3.50, you can change that, and you've got a way better motor that way than an out-of-package, not reworked motor by ProSlide or anybody else. And like the FK motors, you can buy a whole FK motor for X number of dollars from China. You can't even build an in-bell in America for an American-made motor. It'll cost you more to make just the in-bell with hardware.
Well, American-made, all American-made pieces.
All American-made in-bell, yep. That'll cost you more than that complete motor from China.
Yep.
So, yep. It's like I said, I'll look at that and go, how can they do that? But they do.
It's pretty unreal. I mean, because they're not even making them for $12, right? I mean, they're making them for like
they're making them, less than that.
So it's pretty unreal that those motors do what they do for
right
what it is.
Yep.
So, okay.
Next topic.
Well, I don't know. What do you got? Retro cars.
No.
Braid.
Car.
Braid.
No. Yeah, the braid needs thing. What is that?
Bodies.
No. What's that blue thing?
I don't know. Looks like your interior's blue.
No. What's that blue thing?
The guide flag. Okay.
I'm not playing games.
All right. Okay. So this weekend you got to test the new HP guide flag.
Yeah. I call it the canoe, but some people call it the bullet. Some people call it the aerodynamic guide. It's a tapered guide. Can you see that? Yep. From the front to the back.
Uh-huh.
It gets wide here in the center and narrow here and narrow back here. So
right. I see that, yeah.
I really don't know what the whole theory is with that. But let's put it this way. I mean, the guide was handed to me unthreaded. It threaded great. It was like, this is how a guide is supposed to thread. The threads were really nice. It's obviously a strong guide. It's not, it's a stock guide. I didn't do anything to it other than thread it. I had a Cahosa guide on the car. I put that guide on and I went a tenth faster with that guide. Now, everyone wants to know, is it as fast as a Red Fox guide? I can't say that because I did not do all I can tell you is I had a Cahosa guide on the car. I took off, put that guide on, and I went a tenth faster.
Which a Cahosa guide is basically like a Parma cut down.
Right. Previously, at the same track with the same car, I had a Cahosa guide on, took the Cahosa guide off and put on a Red Fox guide and picked up a tenth on that day. Okay? So, I'm not saying this is faster. I'm not saying it is as fast because I did not do back-to-back tests with Red Fox versus HP. But when the car had Cahosa on it both times, and I took the Cahosa off and put on HP or put on Red Fox, I picked up a tenth.
All right. Well, I think that the when the Red Fox came out and everyone found out it was faster, like there was such a rush on them, right? And everyone's still, not everybody, most everybody, they're buying them up. And it's, with the Red Fox, it's like, okay, I'm probably going to go faster, but I'm probably also have more of a chance to break my guide flag. So, it's a risk versus reward that, it's a gamble every time you run it, basically, right? I mean, now of course you can boil them and pin them, and that helps, but they still break like that occasionally. Anyway, not as often, but occasionally.
Right.
So, and the Red Fox are just they're such a pain to thread because in my opinion, the post is too big.
A little oversized.
Yeah. So, like, if somebody came out with something that was just as fast, right, not even faster, then I think it would, and it didn't break, I think it would probably basically just knock the Red Fox right off the shelf. But the problem with the HP one, as of right now, is, like, they're just not as easily obtained as a Red Fox is.
I would say next week they're on their way.
Okay. So, and this is like to a distributor or
to 2 raceways.
Gotcha.
So okay. I'm not going to say who. I'll let them make their own announcements. It could even be more than that. I just know of 2 places that they're already on the way to them. So,
well, I mean, it's going to take people buying them and running them to find out, just like we had to do the Red Fox, right?
Well, and I did not hit anybody in Can-Am this weekend. Like, I came off twice by myself and never got hit or never hit anybody. So I didn't really I didn't put the guy through a breakage test, let's say, okay? But it performed well. It, like I said, my opinion, it don't need boiling, and it's not going to need to have a pin in it. I can tell you that. Now, right. That could change when a few more guys run them or whatever and hit things. But, like the Red Fox guide, when you're threading it, sometimes you can feel that post twisting. Like you can feel flex.
Right.
And with and if you're doing a threader and you're threading, you can't feel anything, so you don't know that you're actually. I hand thread the Red Fox guides that I have run. I have hand threaded, so I can feel when I'm starting to bind up and twist things, then to back off. Where this one, same thing. I mean, I kind of cranked down on it, and it was like there was no flex, no. So I think it's a pretty strong guide. And the deck is a little thicker than the Red Fox, which I think that's one of the problems with the Red Fox. The guide is too thin, or the deck is too thin. So,
right.
I think that's why there's a lot of guide, a lot of post breakage. And I mean, if you was to sit down and thread a Red Fox guide, and then thread one of these, you'd be like, wow, this is a miracle. This is so nice. It just threads.
Oh, well, right. It's like how everyone's used to a Parma thread, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more. But, I mean, they're all different material. Red Fox is obviously a different material. HP is a different material. The Cahosa is a different material. And the Parma is definitely different. I mean,
right.
The different material. They all thread a little differently. But Parma thread's the easiest because it's nylon. It's not got a whole lot of graphite in it. And then the Cahosa is a little stiffer because it has graphite in it. And then the HP is probably in between the Cahosa, graphite, and a Parma. And of course, we all know the Red Fox is very difficult.
Right.
So,
so far, early on, you like them early on, but
early on. And one thing that I definitely like about the HP is when I put it on my car, I didn't have to move my body a little bit forward to cover the guide flag because it doesn't protrude out the front as much as the top deck or where you put your braid in, like the Red Fox does.
And it's got a little bit more hanging off the trailing edge.
When you can,
because it is long. It is because it's about 100 thousandths longer than the Red Fox.
Well,
when I measured,
Red Fox is
or it's 50 or
an inch and 65 thousandths, and this is an inch and 100, or it's like 40 or 50 thousandths longer.
Yeah, there you go, 50 thousandths.
Out the front, well, overall, but it's about the same length out the front as far as just the blade goes.
Yeah, because one thing I noticed, going off of guide flags, kind of staying close to guide flags with the braid, but I was finally able to try some of that paw braid. And for those of you who haven't seen it, we talked about it on the show. Your local raceway can get it. It's supposed to be 408 strand, just like Parma and Prime, right? But it seems real soft to me. I didn't like it that much. It seems shorter, right? Especially with which is more noticeable on the longer guide flags, you know.
Okay.
And then it just seems soft. Like when you would take a wall shot, it would just real easily go, or kind of curl a little bit. You know, it's like just seems soft.
Well, again,
but it's a spectacular price, right? So,
right.
It's one of those things where like you want to save some money and take a chance or not, you know?
Well, the general rule of thumb on braid is, I mean, I'm not saying it's not 408 strand. It could be very well be 408 strands and still be softer compared to another brand of braid that's 408 strands, because it all comes down to picks and weaves,
right?
Stiff or how hard the braid is. So, the general rule of thumb for years is flatter tracks, softer braid, more banked, faster tracks, stiffer braid.
Okay.
So, and like then in a crash deal, that too, I mean, soft braid's always going to twist or move more.
Right.
Because it's not as rigid than the stuff. So.
Yeah. Which I mean, it's nice. I mean, even if I don't run it in the race, like I still practice with it, right? Because it's, it's way cheaper, you know. So it's great to go practice with or something like that, you know. But before the race starts, I'll just put a pair of Big Mama or Prime in just to be safe, you know. But it has its place, and I'm sure, and there's a lot of people that run it that probably don't think it's soft or never had a problem. But that's just my take on it.
Well, we had talked about braid on the show before, and pluses and minuses of different braids. So,
right.
It's like the guide flags. You got to test them. You know.
Right. I mean, there's a reason why I run every part on my car, right? Like, it's not just because I went to the wall and that's what they had. You know what I mean? It's like right. I run each thing specifically for a reason, not just because it was like convenient to buy. I mean, you know, I know you're the same way, right? You know, so if I had that axle in my car, it's because I specifically want a drill blank axle, not just a random axle or whatnot, you know, or I want a specific guide flag, or I like a specific lead wire or a specific braid. I mean, it's just, you got to like try all the different little parts and pieces and find the part that you like out of all of them, you know what I mean? So,
right. Well, and it goes back to risk versus reward. I mean, yes, on my Can-Am car on 2 or 3 tracks, the Red Fox was faster than like the Coz I was running, or even a Parma.
Mm.
But after breaking several of them, I said no more of these, because it's not worth it to lose a race or lose time because a part breaks, you know. So
and the Red Fox had that issue when they first came out with their first ones too, except it was breaking at other places too, like where the kids going.
They were snapping the posts off.
Yeah, and when maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, when JK came out with his new guide, I mean, it was the same way. It broke left and right. You know, and everyone was running it, you know. So through time, it's always been like Parma's always been the oldie but the goodie, but now, you know, Red Fox and looks like HP, I guess, are trying to take that.
And the Red Fox, I mean, I never found the Red Fox to be faster on my flexi cars. And if it was only a thousandth or two. But still, it's like for a thousandth or two, I'm not going to risk breaking a guide. Now, I have a few flexi car races. I have a Red Fox guide on one flexi car that I've won a few races with, because I've just been too lazy to take it off. But I always say to myself before the race starts, you should change that guide flag. And if you don't and you break, then that's your fault, dummy.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I've had times when the Red Fox flag was faster, and I've had times when it was actually slower. But it's like when you're at the track and you're trying all this stuff, like it's like, you know, it's like the guide flag is like the last thing. You're just like, like,
right.
I gotta try that now, you know. So,
yep,
just another thing to put on the list, right?
Yep. So, but yeah, I think maybe I'll have a more not this weekend, but maybe the following weekend, I might have a more definite tests.
Back to back to back. Guide flag face off.
Guide flag face off. We'll test them all.
So what would be the secret word of the show this week?
We're done already?
Well, I'm just asking. I mean,
oh, jeez. We always do that at the end of the show, but we can do it now.
Oh, okay. I thought we were at the end or close to it. I didn't know.
How long have we been blabbering?
Seems like about an hour.
Seems like. Feels like an hour?
Well, it's been about an hour, I think,
okay.
Yeah.
You just want to go play with your new phone.
No.
Wow, secret word of the show. I didn't really thought about that. Hey, let's just do shifter.
Shifter. Okay.
Yeah, shifter.
There you go. All right. Well, I mean, did you have something else? Did you have anything else? That's all I had. It was a guy.
No, I'm good. I just thought there was something else we were gonna. I guess between we talked to motors and guide flags. So. Oh well, we'll do that later.
What?
Well, we were going to talk about maybe a little bit of history of guide flags, but it's getting pretty late to start that.
Oh.
So that could be maybe. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. With any luck, folks.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, with any luck, about an hour after this show is posted on Wednesday night at 8.
Which is probably around 8, but maybe a couple minutes late.
Yeah, it should be
sometimes a little late.
It should be up on time tonight. But anyway,
if it's not up by like 8:02, like
yeah. Well, last week we did the show so early that I kind of I got to do the show. I got to put the show up at 8:00. Well, then I kind of forgot about it, and then I got texted like 8:30. Like, is there a new show this week? Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah. So anyway, with any luck, tonight, about an hour after the show airs, or Wednesday night, an hour after the show, there should be a video up, another how-to video on mounting tire donuts. There may also be a second how-to video, but I don't know if that's going to get done. So
okay,
it'll be next week when we do that one. But
all right, so we'll definitely keep an eye out for the tire donut video.
Tire mounting video.
Okay. And
if it doesn't get up like an hour afterwards, it might be a little later, but
yeah,
it should be up.
Okay.
And if not, you can all yell at me, but it'll be up at some point.
Okay.
Okay, Shifter Ralph.
All right. We're in it. We're in it to win it.
We're in it to win it.
Episode 15. Over and out.
Over and out. Everybody have a good weekend. Good luck.
Thank you, guys. See you later.